I joked about my husband being jealous of my guy best friend, but I never expected the truth behind his reaction to destroy our entire marriage. Welcome to Amelia's Stories. Keep listening. These real stories about love, trust, and betrayal will give you true life experiences. If you're new, drop your location in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Marissa Hale, 32, lived a tidy, structured life in Colorado, the kind where everything had its place and every detail mattered. As a dental hygienist, she was used to precision, both in her work and in her routines. Her husband, Evan Hale, 35, matched her calm exterior but carried a quiet possessiveness that most people didn't notice. Marissa had grown used to it over the years, brushing it off as protectiveness. Then there was Dorian Vance, her lifelong best friend. At 33, he was the complete opposite of Evan. Sarcastic, loyal, naturally protective, and someone who had seen every chapter of Marissa's life long before she ever met her husband. One evening, over a simple dinner at home, Marissa casually teased Evan about being jealous of Dorian. It was meant to be playful, a throwaway comment between spouses. But Evan's reaction wasn't playful. He froze mid-bite, lips tightening into a strange half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, jealousy is a funny thing," he said, voice too calm, too careful. Marissa felt something shift inside the room. A subtle wrongness. A ripple she couldn't quite name. She laughed it off, but the next morning, Evan's entire behavior changed. Almost overnight, Evan slipped into habits that didn't match the man Marissa thought she knew. He began waking up before dawn, moving quietly around the house as if he didn't want her to notice he was leaving earlier than usual. His phone, once left casually on the counter or nightstand, never left his pocket anymore. Even during dinner, it stayed face down close to his hand, like he was waiting for something, or someone. The unfamiliar cologne bothered her most. Evan had never worn anything besides his usual clean, understated scent. Now he came home with a strong, sharper fragrance trailing behind him, something she didn't recognize. When Marissa gently asked what was going on, he dismissed her with a cold shrug, telling her she was imagining things and reading too much into nothing. But Dorian noticed. Marissa wasn't as present, not laughing as easily, not herself. One afternoon he asked her point-blank if Evan was treating her right. Marissa tried to joke it away, saying work was stressful, but Dorian didn't buy it. The tension only deepened when Evan, out of nowhere, announced that Marissa shouldn't spend time alone with Dorian anymore. His tone wasn't concerned, just controlling. Marissa laughed it off, assuming insecurity had gotten the best of him. But his eyes, they held something darker than jealousy. Something cold. That night, Evan texted that he'd be working late. Hours later, he walked through the door with his shirt buttoned wrong, like he'd rushed to put it back on. Little inconsistencies began slipping through Evan's carefully controlled behavior. One evening, while cleaning the kitchen, Marissa noticed 2 wine glasses sitting in the sink. Both used, both rinsed just enough to hide what had been inside. Evan had claimed he'd eaten dinner alone at home after working late, but the evidence said otherwise. When she asked about it, he brushed past her with a clipped, "You're overthinking again." The next day, as she hung up his jacket, a faint perfume drifted up, soft, floral, and unmistakably feminine. Definitely not hers. The scent was so out of place on Evan that her stomach tightened. Still, she hesitated to jump to conclusions, clinging to the hope that there was an innocent explanation. Dorian, however, wasn't buying it. After seeing how distracted and detached Marissa had become, he gently pushed her to face what she was afraid to admit. "Something's not right, Mar," he said quietly. "You know it." Gathering her courage, Marissa tried to confront Evan that night. Instead of answering her questions, he flipped the conversation around with laser precision, accusing her of forming an inappropriate emotional attachment to Dorian. The accusation was absurd, but the way he delivered it, calm, rehearsed, almost triumphant, left her stunned. From that moment, the gaslighting only escalated. Every concern she voiced became crazy, dramatic, or a result of Dorian putting ideas in her head. Then one morning while doing laundry, Marissa reached into Evan's coat pocket and froze. A hotel key card slid into her palm. Marissa sat in her car outside the hotel, printed on the key card, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles whitened. Part of her hoped the card was old, misplaced, meaningless. But the dread sitting heavy in her chest told her otherwise. After several deep breaths, she forced herself inside. The front desk clerk didn't even hesitate when she asked about the room number. He recognized Evan immediately, his expression confirming more than any words could. "Mr. Hale?" "Yes, he books that room regularly," he said casually. "Twice a week usually." The words felt like a blow. A month. Maybe longer. Her pulse hammered as she walked down the carpeted hallway toward the room number she'd memorized. She didn't knock. She didn't burst in. She simply stood a few feet away, heart racing so violently she felt it in her throat. Then she heard it, Evan's unmistakable laugh. Light, relaxed, the way he hadn't laughed with her in weeks. A woman's voice followed, soft and playful. Marissa stepped back quickly, pressing herself against the wall, fighting the urge to collapse. Minutes later, the door opened. She ducked behind a vending machine, barely breathing. Evan walked out first, shirt loose at the collar. Behind him was a tall redhead she'd never seen before, her hair cascading down her shoulders, a butterfly tattoo curling around her wrist. They looked comfortable, familiar. Marissa stayed silent until they disappeared down the hall. Then she walked out of the hotel, got into her car and drove home in stunned, hollow quiet. The drive home from the hotel left Marissa numb, but numbness didn't last. Clarity did. By morning she knew she needed answers. Not guesses, not hope, not excuses. Dorian, seeing the shock still etched on her face, didn't push for details. Instead, he quietly handed her the number of someone he trusted. A private investigator named Lucian Barker. Lucian was direct, composed, and efficient. Within days, he returned with information that made Marissa's stomach twist. The redhead had a name, Tessa Barlow, 29, a junior accountant at Evan's company. She wasn't just some stranger. She worked steps away from him every day. But the real blow came next. Lucian uncovered transfers, hidden payments, and covert purchases. Evan wasn't just having an affair. He was financially supporting Tessa. Covering her rent. Paying for her trips. Buying her gifts Marissa had never received. And buried in a string of messages recovered through discreet digging, Marissa saw the final betrayal. Evan had promised Tessa a new life soon. Every lie, every shift in his behavior suddenly made sense. Instead of confronting him impulsively, Marissa gathered herself. Lucian walked her through what she needed. Timelines, financial proof, documented patterns. Together they began quietly building a file that left no room for denial. Later that night, when she finally told Dorian the truth, he didn't speak at first. His jaw tightened, eyes dark with anger. Not at her but for her. Then he made a promise, low and steady. "You're not going through this alone. Not for 1 second." In the days that followed, Marissa's world seemed to shrink into a fog of exhaustion and heartbreak. She cried in her car before work, sat motionless in her driveway after coming home, and skipped meals without realizing it. Her hands shook while cleaning patients' teeth, forcing her to apologize and step away more than once. Everything felt too heavy, too loud, too unreal. Through it all, Dorian stayed close, not hovering, not prying, just there. He brought her food when she forgot to eat, cracked soft jokes to pull even the faintest smile from her, and drove her home on the days she couldn't trust herself behind the wheel. His presence became the only steady part of her unraveling routine. Lucian, ever the practical guide, laid out what she needed to do next. "Facts matter more than emotions right now," he reminded her. "Gather everything, bank statements, messages, transfers, anything he thought he could hide." Following his advice, Marissa dug through their shared accounts and froze when she saw it. One of their joint savings accounts had been drained. Evan hadn't just betrayed her emotionally, he'd stolen from their life together. The discovery sparked something new inside her. Not rage. Not grief. Purpose. She didn't confront Evan. She didn't ask questions he'd only twist into accusations. Instead, she quietly gathered every piece of evidence. Screenshots, transaction logs, receipts. Organizing them into a file that protected her future more than he ever had. Late one night, after sealing the folder shut, she whispered into the dark. "He thinks I don't know, good." Evan's shift from distant to downright cruel happened almost overnight. He snapped at Marissa for the smallest things, misplaced keys, slightly overcooked pasta, even the way she breathed when she was tired. Every comment carried a sharp edge. He called her overly emotional, accused her of nagging, and hinted that she was becoming unstable. It was clear he was building a narrative, one that painted him as the patient husband and her as the problem. Marissa didn't react. Not outwardly. Instead, she calmly recorded every argument, every insult, every moment he tried to twist reality. Lucian had warned her. He'll try to make you look irrational. Document everything. So she did. Quietly, she made an appointment with Carmine Ellery, an attorney known for her precision and her intolerance for manipulation. Carmine reviewed the evidence, financial records, transfers, the emptied account, and assured Marissa she could legally reclaim what Evan took. "You're not powerless," she said firmly. "You're prepared." With Carmine's legal guidance, Lucian's investigative skill, and Dorian's steady encouragement, Marissa found herself no longer drowning. He was planning, protecting, taking back control piece by piece. One evening, while combing through more documentation, she uncovered the detail that stole the breath from her lungs. Evan had made a down payment on a house. Not for them, she recognized the neighborhood immediately. It was closer to Tessa's office. Her hands went cold. Her chest tightened. But instead of breaking, she felt a calm, razor-sharp clarity settle in. Now she knew exactly what she was fighting for, and who she was fighting against. Marissa planned the evening with deliberate softness. Evan's favorite dinner, dim lighting, her tone light and patient. She needed him relaxed, comfortable, convinced she was still the naive wife he thought he controlled. When he walked through the door, his guard lowered instantly. He ate, made small talk, even smiled, reassured by the calm he assumed was surrender. The moment his shoulders loosened, Marissa sent a text. Seconds later, Carmine Ellery and Lucian Barker stepped through the front door, folders thick with documents. Evan's smile collapsed. Confusion flickered first, then suspicion, then a sharp flash of fear he tried to mask. Marissa kept her voice steady as she laid everything out. The hotel stays, the bank withdrawals, the hidden transfers, the down payment on the house. Every detail Lucian uncovered, every proof Carmine verified, every lie Evan had woven, she recited them with quiet precision. Evan's control unraveled instantly. He denied everything, then attacked her memory, then accused her of invading his privacy. When that failed, rage surged forward. He slammed his hand on the table, stepped toward her with a look that made her pulse spike. Before he could get any closer, Dorian appeared from the hallway, silent, firm, unshakable. He positioned himself between them, eyes locked on Evan with a warning that didn't require words. Evan pointed at Marissa, shaking with fury. "You ruined everything," he screamed. Marissa exhaled slowly, her voice calm, almost gentle. "No," she said. "I just finally saw the truth." After the confrontation, Evan packed his things in a storm of anger, slamming drawers and muttering about betrayal as if he were the victim. He left the house without a backward glance, heading straight to Tessa, expecting comfort and validation. Instead, she shut the door behind him and refused to take his side. She'd already heard enough. A few days later, Tessa reached out to Marissa, her voice trembling with a mixture of guilt and clarity. She explained that Evan had painted Marissa as cold, unloving, and emotionally distant, weaving a sob story to justify his affair. Hearing it, Marissa felt an unexpected blend of disgust and pity. Not for Tessa, but for the pathetic lengths Evan had gone to rewrite reality. With Carmine's guidance, Marissa moved forward legally. The stolen funds were returned, the hidden transactions accounted for, and the house remained firmly in her name. For the first time in months, she breathed freely. She rearranged furniture, lit candles, cooked meals she enjoyed, small acts of reclaiming her space and her spirit. Dorian stayed nearby in a quiet, respectful way, helping where she needed it, giving her space where she didn't. One evening, as they sorted through paperwork at her kitchen table, the weight of everything finally felt lighter. But when Marissa thanked him for standing by her, Dorian hesitated. His hands shook slightly as he set down a pen. "I need to tell you something," he whispered. His voice cracked. "I've been in love with you for years." Marissa didn't respond immediately to Dorian's confession. She sat with it, letting it settle in the quiet spaces between her thoughts, refusing to rush or flee. The past months had taught her the danger of impulsive reactions, how easily trust could fracture and how slowly it healed. Dorian waited patiently, giving her room while remaining steadfast, a calm presence in a life recently shaken to its core. Over the following weeks, they rebuilt a new rhythm together. Conversations grew longer, silences more comfortable, and the laughter she hadn't heard in months returned gradually. They discussed boundaries, fears, and hopes, untangling the threads left behind by betrayal and misunderstanding. Slowly, Marissa found clarity and a renewed sense of self. Evan made one final attempt at manipulation, sending messages, leaving voicemails, even showing up unannounced, pleading for another chance. But Marissa, grounded in her own strength, met each attempt with calm refusal. She no longer felt rage, only the serene assurance of closure. Months later, life took a gentler shape. Marissa and Dorian began a relationship built on honesty, respect, and quiet affection. There were no sudden declarations, only the steady growth of trust and understanding that made each day feel secure and real. As Marissa reflected, she realized betrayal had shattered her world, but it had also rebuilt her, stronger, wiser, and unafraid to recognize the truth behind a joke that hits too close to reality. Life had scars, but it also offered a foundation on which she could finally stand firmly, ready to face whatever came next.